Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Tvanvatitam Gaganasarusham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunaraitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Namaskaram, everyone, and welcome to Youth Perspectives of the Hindu Holocaust. So this is an often not known and not understood topic for sure. It doesn't exist even on the radar of many people. Welcome to Hinduism Now Global Press Live. And we are, there is a United Nations International Day of Remembrance of Holocaust, which is January 27th each year. And so that often works out to a week of events and even a month-long event, remembering the Jewish Holocaust. And so there is also, in many respects, a dearth, misunderstanding, ignorance, lack of awareness of Hindu Holocaust, which by various historical accounts spans more than 1,300 years and has destroyed more than 500 million Hindu lives based on historical references and documentation by many of the perpetrators themselves. And so it's actually something that affords an opportunity for Hindus to become aware of what's the reality. What was Hinduism a few thousand years ago? What was Hinduism 1,000 years ago? What was Hinduism 200 years ago? And what is Hinduism today? And to look and see the shrinking land mass, the destruction of 56 Hindu nations, to today where there are 0 Hindu nations. Although there are Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, and Jewish nations, there's not a single Hindu nation for the 2 billion practicing Hindus worldwide. So a quarter of the planet are practicing Hindus, and there's not a single nation that ensures that the tradition, the spiritual sciences of Vedas, Agamas, Manusmriti, that constitution exists or is supported or for any reason will continue to exist at any point in the future. That does not exist as an expressed goal or preservation by any nation. Of the near 200 countries and more nations, not a single one of them is ensuring that Hinduism continues to exist. So should 2 billion Hindus not have protection for their tradition? Should they not have a nation? There's 1 billion Hindus living in India. There's 1 billion followers of religion living in a country. How can that country not be officially preserving that religion? So today we wanted to bring some youth perspectives. There's obviously a lot of changes happen in the way that Hinduism has been practiced, Sanatana Hindu Dharma, in the last even 30 years, in the last 1 or 2 generations. And so what we're really seeing is actually the future generation from today, that is where things are really getting lost. Not only through 200 years of occupation by colonizers and the re-education of that process, and the bastardization of the practices, the tradition of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, calling it a caste system, which was never used by Hindus. We had Varnashrama Dharma, which is a completely different understanding. So the complete re-education of Hindus into a westernized colonial perspective of Sanatana Hindu Dharma. And so it's come to a point now where the next generation, doesn't dress like Hindus. They don't even understand what the tradition is. There's not a practice. There's not an understanding of why it's important. There are not living yogis. Even today, people's great grandparents would have been actually even living yogis or Ayurvedic practitioners, doctors, Siddha doctors. But today, the next generation we see completely turning towards so-called Western ways of living. And so the spiritual sciences of you as a powerful being, being able to to heal yourself with your own consciousness, and to utilize the own power of your consciousness as a manifestation of the divine existence, to manifest life as you want, and to be a powerful being, and to solve problems that you have on your own, which is always the teaching of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, whether it's from the very first Upanishad, Ishavasya Upanishad, saying Ishavasyam Idagam Sarvam, that the consciousness pervades everything, or Shivoham Tattvamasi Aham Brahmasmi, all these things saying you are already that, you are already enlightened, and it's just for you to recognize and manifest. So this simple science of consciousness embodying the human form, that you are already that, you are already enlightened, you are already without limit, you are already without limitation, manifested now, regardless of your path or past or present or future. You can manifest that now as a decision. So this very science getting lost, that doesn't discriminate race, caste, religion, gender, nor the God that you follow, the tradition that you follow. It's simply a science to manifest your higher conscious possibilities. And so this is getting lost. And we see the shrinking from thousands of years to today. But what we really see is the so-called secularization of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, and a real disconnect from the spiritual truth and spiritual powerfulness, the Dharma itself, the purpose of life, the meaning of life, that is getting completely lost. Not only whitewashed with wrong narratives, anti-Hindu narratives and destruction, the persecution of gurus and various Hindu sampradayas, but with the re-education, and we see that the youth really doesn't have an opportunity even to learn or experience what your own spiritual consciousness is, especially without initiation from guru, no gurukuls, no Hindu ecosystem to grow and live up, to grow up and live in. So it's become past the emergency point, and in many ways past the point of no return, where it's up to Hindus now to preserve and revive what they're going to preserve and revive. And in many ways we see, if Hindus are not standing there, even while they're sleeping, things are getting destroyed, whether it's the temples in Tamil Nadu of the past few months, or temples in Hindu lifestyle for the past thousands of years. So we'll start with a short introduction of two of our guest youth representative panelists today, and then give a short introduction to some of the historical facts and conditions of Hindu Holocaust. So we have with us today Dinesh from USA and Kalyan from India. And so I'd just like to request each of you, please, if you would just briefly tell your name and where you're from, and just you can tell us, I guess, tell us also where you grew up, because that's also an important part. Both of you grew up in actually extremely sort of traditional Hindu lifestyles, sort of surrounded by, whether it's even the temples and the temple lifestyle, and also the community and the traditional Hindu village communities, which is a real blessing. So yeah, if you both please would just share a little bit about where you grew up, and we'll get back to you more after we go through a short introduction of Hindu Holocaust history. Thank you. Namaskaram.
Namaste, everyone. My name is Danish Patel, and I currently live in the United States, but I was born in India. So I basically spent half of my life in India and half of my life in the US. So I guess I have both the perspectives of living and growing up in India, as well as going through high school, college in the United States as well. So I'm excited to have this conversation.
Namaskaram everyone. I'm Kalyana Sundaram and I'm currently living in Tamil Nadu and I was born and brought up in Tamil Nadu, southern Tamil Nadu. So yeah, as it is Tamil Nadu, I grew up in a most ecosystem of temples, living around the temples. So yeah, I was born with it. That's what about.
Great, thank you both. Yeah, that's exactly the you both grew up in extremely powerful and influential and important ecosystems. I know Dinesh grew up in a small village and but an extremely temple-centered ecosystem with a lot of traditional values of farming and community and the extended family and extended joint family. Same with Kalyan actually, and so yeah. So these sorts of influences and growing up in that way is extremely different from the way that a lot of the world youth civilization is living today, and it's very influential and very important and has a very supportive developmental impact on people. So yeah, so we want to get to your perspectives right away because you both have seen a lot of the most traditional ways of living Sanatana Hindu Dharma and had those values a lot, and also seen a lot about how Hinduism is attacked and destroyed and maligned through media and other ways, and how the West is extremely different, not having that root. So it's extremely valuable perspectives that you both have. So I just wanted to quickly go through an introduction of Hindu Holocaust, stepping through a little bit some of the history. Just one moment. Just so we get a little bit of an idea. Some people don't know many of the basics of the Hindu Holocaust or what Hindu Holocaust is or that it exists. And so we want to just make sure that we can give some background there. Okay. The screen is displaying fine, is it? Yes, okay. Thank you very much. So one of the so 2022 International Holocaust Remembrance Day. So this is a day declared by United Nations as a remembrance of the Jewish Holocaust. And so it's January 27th each year. And the events cover a month-long process. And so the Hindu Holocaust does not have such a recognition. So it's important for Hindus to be aware of what has happened and the condition of Hindu life. So the invasion of India is called the greatest genocide in history. So some of the documentation we can see going back is there's a historian named Frishta, and he's an author of Tariq-e Frishta, which is a historical document. So he's one of the first to give an idea of the medieval bloodbath that was India during Mughal rule. So he declared that over 400 million Hindus got slaughtered during invasion and occupation of India. Survivors got enslaved and castrated. India's population is said to have been around 600 million at the time of the invasion. By the mid-1500s, the Hindu population was 200 million. And this was also referred to by Swami Vivekananda in one of his speeches in the USA. So there's a lot of other historical evidences and references of, for example, Mughal rulers documenting how many Hindus they killed. And there are references of, that certain rulers had taken a vow to kill, say, 1 lakh Hindus every year, or on certain events, and there are documentations of hundreds of thousands of Hindus being killed, enslaved, raped, even in a single day, or during a single period of invasion. So these are documented many places. You can see through HinduPost.in does a documentation daily, and Project Hindu Kush has over 3 million documentations. Hindu Holocaust on Facebook and HinduGenocide.com. Kailasa.org also has backgrounds. So we can see Greek genocide numbers listing at 750,000, Armenian genocide of 1.5 million lives destroyed, Jewish genocide of 6 million, and Hindu Holocaust coming to today, in addition to what the Tariq-e-Farishta had defined as 400 million, which was up until the 1500s. So then another 100 million in the past 500 years. So Hindu Holocaust reaching over 500 million lives destroyed. So this is something that many people never heard of before, find it hard to fathom. If you look into the history, it's extremely well documented actually by, actually a lot of the invaders are very proud of their destruction of Hindus, and they list numbers as a badge of honor. So this is just a brief look at some of the atrocities committed against humanity. So it's really, a hidden Holocaust. Although so much documentation is there, it's not given nearly the importance that it should. So it's a difficult thing to talk about sometimes, but if we don't acknowledge, like when you acknowledge the atrocities that has happened against Hinduism, you see it's a planned attack. People call it Hindu phobia. It's not a phobia, right? 500 million lives destroyed is not phobia. It's what in that language is called misya, Hindu hatred. So we can look back amongst the 10, we can look back and see the history of Sanatana Hindu Dharma and the geography of Hinduism. So this map is showing the Mahabharata war ended around 3200 BCE. So the map in saffron is of the Indian subcontinent around that time. 56 sovereign Hindu nations spread across an area of more than 60 million kilometers. So this is stretching from Afghanistan to Indonesia, Malaysia. So this is the area of Afghanistan is the Kandahar is the Gandhar, the Gandhari. So that is the kingdoms, and Gadaram in the Malaysia. So this was the influence, and what is that? Cambodia, the largest stone structure in the world, and Angkor Wat. So this was the reach of the ancient Enlightenment Hindu ecosystem. And then to today, we see a broken number of states, whereby the persecution of Hindus through Afghanistan, extermination of Pakistan, the recent attacks on Hindus, the Hindumisia attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh, the conversion of Nepal in 2007 from a Hindu nation to secular, the repeated exodus, genocide of Hindus in Kashmir, the conversion of Hindus all around India, especially the east and south, and the continued atrocities on Hindus, whether it be Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat, Telangana. There's an extreme amount of conversion of Hindus in Kanyakumari, and especially places like Nagaland, which was converted almost entirely in a span of about 20 years in the mid 1900s, from almost 0% Christian to almost 90% or more. And Andhra Pradesh is also estimated something like 25% or more is actually more than that is now Christian, and that the Christians in Andhra Pradesh, as many as 90% of them actually report as Hindus to continue to get the scheduled caste benefits. So although Sanatana Hindu Dharma may be eternal, it can be wiped off a geography. So this image is showing that as well. So we see a little more than 2,000 years ago, the reach of the Hindu nations and what it's shrunk down to today. The safe influence of practicing Hindus is almost non-existent, even in India itself. Whether it's conversion in the east, you can see the yellow lands, or genocide in the north, conversion in the south. The places where Hindus can safely practice is almost non-existent within India. And the graph is showing the decline in so-called literacy. Whereas the abuse against Hindus in 1910 was that they had become illiterate. But we know that there was as many as 1 million village gurukuls destroyed throughout India. So if you go back before that period, the so-called literacy, not in English obviously, but the so-called literacy would have been great. Teachers were of every caste. In many cases, much more percentage of the teachers were Shudras. So there was not even a caste system. I should avoid using that word. They are of any Varna. So we'll quickly go through this just to give an image of some of the atrocities, what has happened. So you can see in the middle, we have garlands of baby parts. So there are a lot of disgusting atrocities committed against Hindus. On the right, the females of the Hindu kingdoms throwing themselves into the fire to prevent their bodies from being raped. So even after they may be killed, they may be raped. So they would burn their bodies to prevent that. And you see Draupadi being disrobed on the left, for example. So, and then also the attack on Sikh gurus. So you see just what actually was done to Hindus. These images, see, an artist took time to make this, so that Hindus can see what happened. It's not pleasant to look at, but this is documented in by the invaders themselves of what they did to Hindus while invading. Guru Tegh Bahadur Singh and his followers, as well as the son of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. So they were tortured in public in cages for more than a week, and then cut to pieces and displayed, and their body parts fed to animals. So we just see. So from 3200 BCE, 56 Hindu nations completely destroyed to zero till today. So when we get a look at the changing geography where Sanatana Hindu Dharma is practiced, it gives us a little idea of what's going on. So we know the Nalanda University, many universities destroyed. So there was hundreds of thousands of university students across India. How can we imagine this? Thousands of years ago. So these universities, people from all around the world would come for study. People like Plato, they're documented that their education was taken here. So these are some of a short list of some of the massacres going back to 1300 through 1761. 12,000 Hindu ascetics killed in Srirangam in 1323, 180,000 in 1353, 500,000 1366. So these are huge numbers. So the list is extremely long. So the Hindu Holocaust sort of covers three main stages. First, the Mughal invasions, starting even going back to the, say, 700s, and then the colonization occupation by British. And thirdly is the current, under the current constitution, which discriminates against Hindus. So we have the Mughal invasion, the British occupation, and the current so-called post-independence time, where the constitution itself discriminates against so-called majority of Hindus. So here is sort of a information from the British occupation. So Max Muller had translated some of the Vedas. So basically, they were paid to translate the books of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, the Shastras, in a derogatory way, in a limited way, so that they could be interpreted as less impactful. And so their perspective was to colonize. This was sort of like manifest destiny, white man's burden, need to civilize the savages. So Alexander Cunningham was the first appointed head of the Archaeological Survey of India. And so it was basically set up to make sure to tell a westernized story of Hindu history. For example, fabricating Indian Aryan invasion, etc. As many as 1 million Gurukuls, according to the census conducted by British in Bengal and Bihar, have been destroyed from India to today, where there's almost zero. Some images. So this is going through some of the induced and contributed to famines by occupiers. A quote from Winston Churchill saying, "I hate Indians. They're beastly people with a beastly religion. The famine was their own fault for breeding like rabbits." So this actually happened, and there was as many as 4 million Hindus died in a month. So if that happened from starvation, how could so many die at the same time? How bad it would have been. If you could take pictures like this, then what was really going on? If you could gather a group of people like this, and there's hundreds of millions of people across India, then what really was going on where you couldn't photograph. This is some of the documentation of the induced and contributed to famines. 10 million died in 1770. So this is coming up to the time of the British occupation. 11 million in 1782, 11 million, 1791. And this goes up to I believe it's 1943 Bengal famine. So these are all documented here. So the next phase coming from Mughal invasions, British occupation, is the current constitution, which attempts to frame Hindus as a majority and therefore give all other religions minority rights that Hindus don't have. So this essential practices is saying that the court often tries to decide what is an essential practice of a tradition, and if it's not deemed as an essential practice of a Hindu tradition, then it cannot be used as justification to protect the Hindus under the Constitution. So if the court doesn't say your practice is a Hindu practice, if they decide otherwise, then the Constitution doesn't protect that Hindu tradition. This is a good list of how the Constitution discriminates against Hindus and Hindu temples. So other religions are given protections and Hindus are not. And some of the more modern examples, this is just from yesterday, how media goes along with the Constitution, the current ecosystem in India, discrimination against Hindus. So there's the deceased was identified as Zahra Khan of Bakrik district. The accused husband was identified as Muhammad Yassin, also of Bakrik. So, but the headline is saying that an Ayurvedic medicine supplier kills second wife over petty issue. So it sounds like, okay, there's a Hindu person, but that is the discrimination presented. And also the encroachment on the forts of Chhatrapati Shivaji, where illegal settlements are being built, and narratives are being told that members of other religions had been born or raised in those places, and so they want to appropriate them for those religions and build their own religious establishments in the forts, on the forts of where Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj had established. So these are some of the more modern examples. Up till today, the anti-Hindu guru ecosystem is kept alive even after independence of India. So one thing that we miss is, hey, when the gurus are killed, the Hinduism dies. It becomes just a bookish religion. If there's no one living in enlightenment, then it's just a book. Hinduism was never intended to be a book. Your consciousness cannot be defined by a book. So there's an anti-guru, so-called Hindu ecosystem now in the so-called secular state of India, that left and right is destroying the gurus. If you don't have a living enlightened guru, you only have a book. Hinduism is not a book religion. So Kanchi Shankaracharya, maligned and dragged through the mud, kicked left and right for 10 years, completely innocent. Look at the number of abusive hours and zero coverage of his innocence. One of the greatest Hindu leaders of modern day treated like this. And many Hindus justify that treatment. So just some more background of the saints are being attacked on false charges. So this is called lawfare. Swami Lakshmanan Saraswati and his followers, including female devotee, were gunned down in broad daylight, whereas in that morning time, it was circulated that he would be attacked. And in the evening, they were shot multiple times with multiple guns. So it was broadcast he would be killed, and then they came later that day and killed him. Same thing with Palgar. They were held by police. Police released them to a waiting mob after 11 p.m. at night, after hours of hanging around, with hundreds of people somehow gathered during COVID lockdown. They were delivered to be killed and video recorded as a statement. Don't be a Hindu leader, especially a young Hindu leader. We'll kill you. The leader head of all the Akaras recently left his body under extremely suspicious and concerning circumstances, whereas reports had shown that his signatures in no way match what was put on his so-called suicide notes. So this is happening just now. If today people can walk in and make that happen, then what future is there for Hindus? The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam, repeatedly attacked for more than 20 years now, burnt alive literally here while it's streamed on live stream. This is Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, was coronated in 2015 by thousands of Hindu pontiffs as the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, the leader of all these sampradayas. This is Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam. And one of the major attacks launched against him in 2010 by Sun TV, releasing and airing more than 15,000 hours of derogatory abuse against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism across multiple media stations. Former CEO of Sun TV, Saxena, he confessed that this was a common practice of releasing fake information and fake videos against people, and specifically in the Nithyananda case. So he admitted the video was morphed, which was used to launch attacks, including this, where the life of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was threatened openly with this sword on live television, and nothing is done about it. This is the anti-Hindu ecosystem we're living in India today. Whereas recently, during a conference in December 2nd and 3rd of just last month, the Kailasa Nation had presented about the ongoing persecution of Hindus to the United Nations. So for the first time, actually speaking about the history and the development of Hindu Holocaust in the United Nations, which obviously even this week, the India representative to United Nations had said that we need to raise the issue of Hindu phobia, not just phobia of minorities, but actually Hindu phobia is a big issue. So leading the way, developing a global nation to protect Hindus. How could we possibly wrap our head around 100 million? And today, 1 billion ideologically enslaved. 1 billion Hindus living in India, but not under a Hindu constitution. And as we saw, abuses through media, 500 million Hindu lives destroyed over the past 2 millennia. Even the abuses conducted against Hindus to say that colonizers named your religion Hindu. They're saying the enslavers, the colonizers, who invaded you and tried to destroy you, named your religion Hindu, and today you're calling yourself Hindu. What more abuse could you possibly do to a people? There are many references. Several gurus have documented more than 20 or 30 references to the word Hindu being used in Shastras. So this is one of them through Shabda Kalpa Dharma. The one who renounced ignorance and inferiority is called a Hindu. So you can find more at this link. That's one of the abuses, saying your religion itself is named by colonizers. What kind of a people would accept the naming of the religion by colonizers, enslavers, to say you're a Hindu, and then for the next hundreds of years, they call themselves Hindu? What kind of a, self-hating people would do that? So these are the abuses. So today, of 72 religion-centric armed conflicts going on around the world, okay, there are 72 religion-centric, based in religion, fighting over religion, armed conflicts going on now in the world. Not a single one is Hindu-centric. Not a single one. So there's no such thing as Hindu phobia. There's nothing to be afraid of Hindus. It's Hindumisia. Lastly, completing for going a little bit longer, more than 500 million Hindus killed, massacred, raped. Imagine watching Polygar video 500 million times. If you took birth as a Hindu in your last 10 to 15 births, at least in one of your earlier births, you would have been a part of 500 million who were killed the way the Polygar Saturns were killed. If you're a Hindu today and you took a Hindu birth in today's ecosystem of destruction of Hindus, it's because you were a Hindu in a previous birth. No one would walk into this current anti-Hindu ecosystem unless they had a depth of previous experience. So if you were a Hindu in your previous birth, you were one of the murdered Hindus. Who, coming through reincarnation, the 500 million Hindus who were murdered, who were they? If you came as a Hindu today, you came because you have a depth connection to Hinduism, not because it's going to be easy. So rest assured, you were one of those Hindus. So thank you, everyone, for your time and attention. And I'd like to just move now into incorporation with our panelist youth guests, please. Thank you very much for your patience. And yeah, I would just open the floor to either of you. If you'd like to share anything about your, any of your thoughts, feelings, perceptions about what we just saw, or anything else, please let's just open the floor to an open discussion. I know you both have a huge experience to speak from as well as knowledge. And so you can just please share how you would like to. Thank you very much.
Namaste. I guess I can start. I think, that was a great presentation, kind of showing a lot of the, the overarching themes of how the Hindu persecution has kind of progressed from when the first invasions happened. I think one of the things that we as Hindus and the Hindu community tend to not even consolidate a common understanding on is the fact that we don't even call the invasions for what they are. If you look at the income, the influx of a lot of the colonizing forces from the Middle East, or Persia, or the Western regions, a lot of times people kind of justify that, saying, oh, there are people that came and became a part of us. They're just here for a good life. All these kind of different narratives kind of float around. But actually, if you look at the historical evidence, if you look at the sources, the actual documentation from these very colonizers, they rave about all these atrocities. They document all the numbers. They say that, this was their target of attacking these many Hindus, and this is how much they accomplished. And they, kind of make it they glorify that. And these are actually recorded in primary source evidence. But a lot of times Hindus even neglect that. Even though this evidence exists, Hindus are still willingly neglecting that because of the intergenerational trauma that they have. A lot of Hindus can't even come together to acknowledge what has happened to them. And I think it starts as basic as identifying what the invasions were. And there's a term specifically used for these kind of invasions. It's called settler colonialism. And I don't see many Hindus using this terminology for many reasons. One being, we're just never taught about these persecutions, and we're not presented these persecutions in a way that kind of defines it as it is, which is settler colonialism, where people from other regions, settled into our region, not peacefully. They weren't there to peacefully coexist. They didn't enter to kind of have dinner with us. They forcefully invaded into sacred indigenous Hindu lands and actively sought to take over the political, economic, social structures of the indigenous Hindu land. So we should be very specific in what we call it. We shouldn't just be calling it whatever, like, oh, people came and became a part of us. Because I have been hearing that narrative ever since I was growing up. Ever since I was little, I've been hearing those kind of narratives, especially growing up in India. The people in India are not even ready to acknowledge the kind of atrocities that have been committed on them. And I think it starts by actually defining settler colonialism for what it is. And similar things can be seen in other parts of the world with other indigenous folks, like the Native Americans, for example. They had similar things happen where settler colonialists, this is the terminology that's used to describe what happened to them, is when, European settlers came and settled on the Americas, and they, colonized them. They committed unthinkable atrocities on them as well, much like how Hindus have faced in India. So yeah, and I think there's certain things that have to be called for what they are. there was settler colonialism in India that has enormous amount of evidence, primary source evidence, and I don't think Hindus should be shy of actually acknowledging that. So I just wanted to share that to start off. So I'll let Kalyan maybe add his perspective on it.
Yeah, so what you said is so true that even years after colonization, I mean, even after the British went away, their traits were still with Indians. It's so evidently visible. So I think we saw the slide where there were 56 nations and now there is nothing except Kailasam. So in the slide, we can see if, if we want to, let's say, we want to tell those Hindus who are telling all those invaders came into India to make some peace treaty, which is they are not doing it. So if let's say they are seeing this graph, I mean the map. There you can see the 56 nations, which is so wide, and all those thousands of indigenous practices were practiced in those times. Um, so those practices are not even legally allowed in some cases in India. Um, so we can ask this question to those people who say Hinduism is still alive, and those people who invaded just took just the land and money. No, they not just took the land or money or whatever. They took the ecosystem which produced those much of land and money. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share on this topic, where uh, people say all those invaders weren't came here just for money, just that. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely agree. Because, most of the time people just think of the political ramifications of these invasions, settler colonialism, and colonialism and imperialism, all these things that have happened through different periods in the history of India. People don't realize that it's so much more than just political colonization or an economic colonization. It's about stealing the conscious sovereignty that we as indigenous Hindu folks had. When someone steals that conscious sovereignty for us to decide how we want to live our life, how we view the world, how we conduct ourselves, how we practice our tradition, that's when they're stealing something that's at the root, that the foundation of what makes us Hindu, what makes us spiritual oriented, what makes us conscious centric ecosystem, what makes our very lands consciousness centric. Everything is centered around consciousness in Sanatana Hindu Dharma. And when that conscious sovereignty is taken away from us, all we're left is talking about politics and economics. I think the discussion should be a lot more than that. It's not that we shouldn't be talking about political matters or economic matters, but the conversation should also prioritize and make consciousness, the stealing and colonization of our sovereignty, of our consciousness to decide how we want to live and how we've always lived. I think that's the real threat that us as a civilization, us as indigenous people have faced. And kind of like another point I just wanted to add was, earlier we were talking about how a lot of these settler colonialists, like when they came and committed all these atrocities, they went on and on raving about the persecution that they did. And it's very interesting because you can see many similarities even today, where groups like Joshua Project, other like evangelical extremist Christian organizations, which are actively force converting people, not by their will, using various incentives, various societal pressures to make these indigenous Hindu people convert into their religion. It's the same thing. If you go to their website, you will see them raving about the number of quote unquote souls that they harvest they'll say, yeah, this was our target, this is what we reached, and this is what we've accomplished. It's like they're treating us as objects that they can manipulate and bring it under their fold. And they're treating us as objects. That's literally what it is. And they're raving about their accomplishments. They think that they're doing something positive and contributing to the world, when what they're doing is, stealing our identity, stealing who we are, and imposing their ideologies and their way of living onto us. So yeah, it's interesting to see that those parallels, that it's not just some ancient thing, it's not just something that happened in the past and people just kind of move on with their lives and be negligent. I think we need to recognize that similar things are happening today, and we need to map those things and understand how they're happening today in different forms, in different mediums, but the same concept is still carried on even till this day, where our people are being persecuted and atrocities at various levels are being committed against us.
Yeah, so what you said is so true. Even they use the same formula today, that they Hindus can't even recognize what they're doing. In the past, what they brainwashed us is that there is no education in your area, and we are giving you education. So follow our traditions. That's what they did in the past, and it's happening exact same way, that even now they are doing that same gaslighting, saying you are not given education because of your culture. So we are giving you education, so just follow our culture. So this the formula they are using is so evident, but still Hindus aren't able to grasp what they are doing. So this comes again under the hands of Hindus, because it is they who should understand what their scriptures say, and they should understand what are the practices that was involved to lift their life. So we lost it, and we are still suffering, but still we can come back and go up in the conscious level. So we have many gurus doing it, but those gurus were being again targeted, and it again comes around the same loop of education, culture, etc. So without gurus, we you can't say without gurus Hinduism can survive, right? So
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
yeah, absolutely. And that was a great point that you mentioned about how a lot of these forces, anti-Hindu elements, impose their ideas of education, their ideas of medicine, their ideas of various different fields onto Hindus. But this is a cunning strategy that has been used for centuries. Mughals, and with the onslaught of Islamic invasions in India, they were kind of focused on political colonization, right? Taking over the political systems, taking over the kingdoms, the various Hindu kingdoms that existed in India, and even to a certain extent economic colonization, where they imposed certain taxes on Hindus called jizya. They would economically exploit Hindus. But with the onset of British colonization, another very cunning and very manipulative kind of a mindset and ideology took root in India, where it wasn't just about politics, it wasn't just about the economy, it was also about the societal, social framework, the consciousness centric lifestyle that India had. So the British colonization really kind of hit hard at that consciousness centric lifestyle, which we're facing even today. We can see the ramifications of that even today. Whether it's like the colonizing forces come into India and then they destroy the education system that existed, and then they have the audacity to tell the indigenous Hindu folks living on that land to say that, oh, your education system doesn't exist, it's not good enough, you should adopt our own education system now. So first phase is like destroying the Hindu practices, the Hindu traditions, the Hindu institutions that existed, and then coming and saying, okay, now you can adopt our own thing, now adopt the Western education that completely disregards the consciousness centric lifestyle that was taught in gurukuls, for example. Same thing with medicine, destroying the indigenous medicinal systems like Ayurveda, Siddha medicine, and then coming and saying, hey, your medical system isn't good enough. So you should adopt this other kind of Western, medical system. And you should just disregard all these primitive practices of Ayurveda and Siddha and all that. So you can clearly see that it's the same technique that they use. First, they destroy the indigenous institutions and systems, and then they impose their own neo ideas of what those institutions and systems ought to be. So yeah, and then the last point that you mentioned, absolutely true. I think Hindus have been systematically brainwashed to think that Hindu gurus aren't important. Actually, the reason why we have survived for all these years, for centuries and centuries of persecution, is because Hindu gurus and Hindu sampradayas and Hindu paramparas, guru paramparas, have upheld the dharmic consciousness-centric lifestyles in whatever capacity they could, even within the oppressive structures that they functioned in. Even during the Mughal settler colonialism, a lot of the political autonomy, a lot of the economic autonomy was stolen from Hindus. So even a lot of spiritual gurus were not able to function at their optimum like they used to. And even with the onset of British colonization, even more damage was done, even more freedom, this conscious sovereignty, the freedom that we have to decide how we live. Even that was further taken away from all the spiritual ecosystems. And even today in the present, context, with the current constitution as it is, it does take away a lot of the freedoms and sovereignty that Hindus had historically before all these invasions and settler colonialism. We don't have that anymore, unfortunately. Even many Hindu practices are punishable by law, which is ridiculous. So yeah, Hindu gurus have literally been at the core, at the foundation of preserving these practices. And that's why we're able to enjoy these things today. And I think a lot of Hindus are taking it for granted. They're just thinking, oh yeah, it's just my grandpa or grandma or my great grandparents, they pass it on to me. That's why I have it. But you have to realize, how did they get educated? How were they exposed to the Hindu practices that were passed on to you? It was because of Guru Paramparas. It was because gurus worked tirelessly throughout the length and breadth of India, even working within the conditions and the constraints that they were in during settler colonialism and colonization. So I think we owe a huge debt of gratitude to all the Hindu gurus, all the Hindu Guru Paramparas, for preserving this knowledge for us and keeping it alive. And unfortunately, what they're getting in return is persecution. If you look at Hindu gurus today, they're getting persecuted left, right, and center. And it's not even about politics. It's going beyond the political lines. These gurus are attacked by all sorts of political ideologies and all sorts of different religious ideologies as well. It's not just some one entity or one person or one group or one organization attacking them. It's a multitude of different forces, anti-Hindu forces that have manifested, that are actively trying to erase the indigenous Hindu identity, the indigenous Hindu practices and lifestyle and this tradition that the gurus are upholding. And the way to eliminate that, they understand that. The anti-Hindu elements understand that the way to target Hindus is by targeting Hindu gurus. So I think the least we can do in this situation is for Hindus to understand this, to get educated, to, drop that ego of thinking everything and actually understand what's going on, what's happening to these gurus, because that's the only way you're going to be able to practice in the future your tradition.
Yeah, so true. Okay. So you mentioned the continuous attack on gurus. So one of the successful part where these Hindumisia people succeeded is that they have made Hindu youngsters so clear that even attack on Hindu guru happens, the Hindu youngsters would entertain it. They would applaud the Hindu music people, saying, "Oh, great, you are exposing this guru." But the truth is, they're attacking them, and these people aren't even aware of it. Even if you go onto any social media platform and all these meme pages, they would have been like all those posts during the persecution time were not in order to support the gurus. They were posted just to attack the gurus from their side. So this point of these Hindu music people, they have succeeded so much that even Hindus are going against their own tradition. Um, so what I think is you know the reason why they succeeded is because of the knowledge system being destroyed, as you said. All those systems were systematically destroyed. Even the universities, in the slide we saw, there were 10,000s of universities around that 56 nations. And one of the good things about that university is, I read it somewhere in the internet that the universities function 24 hours, 7 days a week. So it's like the gurus the acharyas who are training all those students, they would go on teaching, giving knowledge to whoever come 24/7. That is the greatest thing. But uh, the knowledge source was attacked so much that it's just gone now. You can see all those libraries burned. We can't retrieve them back, right? So yeah, it's gone. And what we can do now, we can just use the digital ecosystem to enrich others and get them knowledge that Hindu gurus are not being exposed; they are being attacked. So what's your take on that? How do you think social media is Hindus in social media? Uh, support the Hindu music people.
Yeah, great point. I noticed that too, especially being on so many like social media platforms. You can see the various levels of persecution attacks happening even by our own people. I mean, it's the silliest thing to even think about, because we're attacking our own selves in a way. You know, we're chopping off our own hands and legs. We're attacking the very source of things that's keeping us alive. I think at the root of it, people need to understand, youngsters especially, that the knowledge, right? There are many Hindus, even young Hindus, who may identify themselves as Hindus, and for example, they may have read the Bhagavad Gita, but they don't necessarily see the importance of gurus. They don't necessarily see the importance of how this tradition has been kept alive. So I want to speak directly to them right now. You are experiencing, you are able to enjoy, you are able to read the Bhagavad Gita, you're able to practice all the different beautiful traditions of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, is because the Hindu Guru ecosystem, the Hindu Guru Paramparas have kept it alive until today. That's why you're able, as a young Hindu, to practice all these things. You might think, okay, well, you weren't taught by a guru. Maybe you think your parents gave you the knowledge. Maybe the grandparents or your great grandparents gave you the knowledge. But who gave them the knowledge? What made them experience and pass down this knowledge to you? And what made them live a dharmic, dharma-centered, consciousness-centered lifestyle? It's because of the Guru Paramparas. When all these invasions, when all these attacks happened, it is the gurus. They're the gurus that kept this tradition alive. Or else you wouldn't be able to enjoy and read the Bhagavad Gita, for example. You would not be able to practice all the different festivals of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, because they would have been essentially wiped out, functionally extinct. So people really need to just understand that. And that's one of the reasons why it is so important for Hindus to study and kind of learn about the genocides and persecution that has happened on our people. The reason why it's important is because that's how you will get the full context of why this knowledge, why dharma, why shastras, why gurus, why is this parampara, why is all of this that we practice important? The reason why it's important is because, and the reason why you're getting the benefit of this is because our gurus, our, many Hindu leaders have fought and resisted against these attacks and persecutions. So it's extremely important for us to understand that historical context about where, how we got here to this place that we're now. And it's unfortunate because I see so many hateful comments online from many young people, thinking that they can just attack and take down some gurus that are brought in the media limelight. They just kind of jump on the bandwagon and start attacking them. That's really not helping. If you consider yourself to be a practicing Hindu, you should actually, when something comes up about any Hindu guru, any Hindu sampradaya, which it comes up very often in the media is constantly attacking one sampradaya or another, one Hindu guru or another. You as a practicing Hindu, it's your responsibility to go and look deeper and see what is actually happening. What is the Hindu guru's perspective? What is the Hindu organization's perspective on what is being spread in the media? Do you ever give the benefit of doubt to the Hindu guru or the Hindu sampradaya that's being attacked? As a Hindu, it's your basic duty, it's your basic responsibility to actually go deeper and investigate whatever accusations, whatever bad words or whatever things you're hearing about these gurus or sampradayas. It's your responsibility to go and do the research and find out and hear their perspective. Listen to the perspectives of the Hindu gurus and the sampradayas that are being persecuted. That's the least you can do. I'm not even saying don't just completely block out the media, don't watch the media at all. If you want to watch the media, go for it. But you also, it's your basic, it's common sense to me, it's basic responsibility to do the research and maybe learn about what the other perspective is from the guru and from the organization. Because the attacks happening on Hindu gurus are very systematic. It's not a one incident. It's not even 5 or 10 incidents. It's so many incidents with the same pattern of attacks, with the same accusations, with the same strategies and cunning manipulative techniques used to attack these gurus. And when you study these things, when you actually take the time from just randomly commenting abusive things online, and when you actually take the time to look deeper and study these, each and every incident of every guru that's been attacked, every sampradaya that's been attacked, you will see a clear pattern. You will see how it's been systematically done to erase the sampradaya, to erase the Hindu guru's influence on society. So I would just urge young people to at least just do the research. It's not that hard, go to if you're really that interested and invested in defending and standing up for Hinduism. And another narrative that I see is some people think that it's their responsibility to denounce all the quote unquote fake gurus and all the fake babas. That's what they call it. It's a very derogatory way of describing the people that are keeping your tradition alive. I'm very straightforward about that. Maybe if you really care about Hinduism that much, to protect Hinduism and the Hindu traditions from all these quote unquote fake gurus and fake babas, maybe you should take the responsibility to go to those organizations, go to those gurus and do your research. Go to them and actually investigate what's actually happening to them. And then you'll realize the kind of atrocities that they're going through, the kind of systematic persecution that's being done on Hindu gurus and Hindu sampradayas. Then you will really care about the Hindu issues that you claim to care about. So I just want to send that message to any youth that may be watching. Stop being negligent. By being negligent, by being just surface level understanding and seeing a media headline or seeing something on social media, you just kind of make up your mind about a whole organization or sampradaya or a Hindu guru that's being attacked. No, we can do better than that. We can investigate and form our own view on what's actually happening on these things. And there's enormous amount of evidence to help you understand what's actually going on. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not some blind defense of anyone. It's actually rooted in evidence. There's actual evidence for all these things. So that's what I would encourage all the youth to do.
Yeah. And you mentioned the people who claim to demolish all those fake babas. The pattern that even those people are doing is they are not interested in the science of what Hinduism has to offer or what that guru has to offer. They just wanted to do this for some amount that they get somewhere else, right? So the image that they are building up is see, I am a Hindu and I tell that this Baba should be eliminated. So they form this image each time when a new guru comes up offering something to Hinduism. It's like let's say you are a Hindu who's not so active in social life. You are just doing your own chores, and I just come to you and say, see, I am a Hindu and there is this guru who is doing all these kind of things and he should be eliminated. So generally what you would think is, okay, so he's being active on this area, so what he thinks would be what he shares would be right. But they are these neo Hindus under the sheet of Hindus who is trying to protect Hinduism. So this kind of people, let's say, these are the neo Hindu peoples. They would be inside Hinduism and trying to defame the gurus who are trying to defend Hinduism. And so the other important point that you made is media. And uh, if we speak about media, we can just go on hours and hours speaking all nonsense they show live. They just have thousands of hours of content just to abuse Hindu gurus. And the saddest part is that they have influence in social media and real life so much that they can manipulate whatever they want. And these people who won't even do any research, they just blindly follow all those media and tell the Hindus who are following gurus that they are blindly following gurus. It's just that contradicting, right? And that's what I think happening, and people are not even aware of it. And one more interesting thing, or what I can say, uh, the Hinduism has many things to offer, like yoga, for example. The whole world got benefited of yoga, right? And it's just an assumption. Say, if media with this power existed back then, where yoga is getting famous, what I think they would say is that yoga is literally, they, if you do yoga, you would be there would be pain, and you need to take lots of medication, and it's like they would just blame yoga for the health issues that specific person practicing yoga has. So at that time, hopefully, fortunately, media was not that big, and the whole world got the benefit of yoga. But now Hinduism, the gurus who are trying to revive Hinduism are taking up so much of stuff out of the Vedas and Agamas and telling it to the whole world, and the media just can't simply digest it, and they just go on spreading all these lies and so-called what do you say, exposed gurus, and it's just funny to see people believing it. And the social media, and that too Facebook and Instagram, it has so much potential, but all these Hindu youngsters are being they just they are going in a different path where they should not be. It's just bad for themselves and for the future generation, right? What do you think about the social media influence of these Hindumisia people. I mean, it's so bad for the future, and it should be stopped.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the word they use, neo-Hindu, because it really is a neo form of kind of Hindu. Because neo-Hindus, I don't think there's a consolidated definition that everyone agrees on what a neo-Hindu is. But to
Yeah.
me, like it's just someone who's really confused about their own identity, someone who's really who has fallen for the colonial narratives about Hinduism, and someone who isn't a practicing Hindu but feels like they have the authority and the opinion to tell other Hindus what Hinduism ought to be. So to me, that's like a neo-Hindu definition. and and we always see these neo-Hindus floating around on social media or even in real life sometimes, where you like they will just come and tell you that we don't need gurus, we don't need shastras, we don't need any of these things. Let's just sit and meditate, and let's just maybe read a couple verses from the Bhagavad Gita, and let's interpret them the way we want. This is kind of the mentality that a lot of these like neo-Hindus have, because they're not realizing, again, the foundation of what makes Sanatana Hindu Dharma what it is, which is a consciousness-centric lifestyle in all aspects of life, not just one thing, right? Uh, not just that you just sit and meditate all day. There's so many different aspects, whether it's medicine, Ayurveda, whether it's even the way society is structured politically, economically, socially, uh, things like sustainable agriculture, so many things, so many different aspects. And I think a lot of times these neo-Hindus tend to ignore all of that, and they fail to understand where all these things are coming from and why they're important for today's world. And you mentioned about yoga, and how if there was like media coverage happening back in the day, there actually is media coverage. There's like a whole archive of all the newspapers in the United States, where so you can basically go to this website and look at every single newspaper that existed in the United States. So what they've done is they've taken all these physical newspapers and made them digital. So if I want to look up something of what happened in 1936 or something, then I can look up all the newspaper headlines and stuff that was happening. I can even search by keywords. Like I can search the word Hindu and see all the newspaper headlines that are coming about Hindu. Or if I search the word yoga, it will show up everything about yoga. So interestingly, there have been a lot of media coverage about Hinduism, Hindus, and yoga, and even a lot of mystical practices within Sanatana Hindu Dharma in the West, in the 1900s, even 1800s. And the way they're defining yoga is exactly what you said. They maybe it wasn't literally what you said about how people would say, oh, it will cause you pain and all of that, but it was more of an evangelical Christian perspective on what yoga is. So back in the day, a lot of Westerners, especially in the United States, were turning to yoga, turning to Hinduism in various ways, and a lot of the Orthodox Christian evangelical establishment in the United States kind of started getting worried that they're going to lose all their followers to this other thing that's really attractive to these people, and they're finding meaning into this other spiritual tradition apart from Christianity. So they started creating all these narratives about yoga, saying, oh, yoga is demonic. If you do it, you're gonna hallucinate and you're gonna create all kinds of problems with yourself. You're gonna go crazy. Like it's not a good thing for you. And they created all these narratives to kind of shun people from even trying these things. And many of those narratives, you can clearly see that they've carried on and they exist even today in the United States Christian, establishment, mainstream consciousness, if you want to call it that, where many Christians are even afraid to practice yoga because they think it's demonic and they don't want to worship false gods, quote unquote. So even that thinking still exists today as we speak in the United States, and I can tell that from just living here for so many years. So yeah, and it's unfortunate because a lot of Indians are even taking those narratives and applying it on their own people. Uh, they're taking that, you know, yoga is bad for you, yoga is demonic, it's not, it's just physical exercise, whatever, it's not a big deal, whatever. It doesn't have any spiritual Hindu context to it. They're just eating up that narrative and applying to their own people, which is the most unfortunate thing that can happen.
Yeah, and even among all these attacks on whatever psychological or physiological, um, the again it comes back to gurus who uphold the dharma even in those dark times. And it is important that we should respect them, and we should, even though if all those Hindus aren't following them, it is their duty to at least not abuse them, right? So abusing is a, like, say let's say you are telling bad things about me, and even if I have something great to offer, the people who listen to you won't come and get that. It's the same with gurus. They have so much to offer, and these people who abuse are just losing the opportunity to something more in their life and for the future generation. So yeah, I think it all boils down to the knowledge tradition of Sanatana Hindu Dharma.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to say something about that real quick. Like, I think the reason why people, there are people, especially on social media, you know, kind of see an headline and instantly react very negatively to Hindu gurus or any sampradaya that's being attacked, is because they don't understand what the guru or the sampradaya is offering to the world. You know, they just don't even know what's at this table, what the guru is presenting to the world. So they're just blindly attacking someone without realizing that this person is actually looking to revive a lot of these ancient Hindu practices that you, as someone on social media, as a young person, isn't even aware of. And you're just blindly going on commenting negative things without doing your due diligence and research about the topic. And it's very unfortunate, because that means that if that guru or that sampradaya is attacked and it, God forbid, like, you know, it's negative things happen to them, then that whole knowledge system, that whole tradition, those practices that the guru was attempting to revive, now those things won't be able to come out to the mainstream Hindu consciousness. And so it's you who's going to lose out if you, when the Hindu guru and the sampradaya is persecuted. It's you who's losing in this whole battle. They're not losing. They're just trying to help us. They're just trying to help and enrich the society by bringing out and reviving all the sacred practices and traditions that have been lost because of all the persecutions that have happened to us. So it is us who are benefiting. They don't have anything personal to gain. And you know, a lot of times I hear this, another thing when we talk about these things is, everyone, like, I feel like there's a lot of jealousy that many people tend to have, especially in India, related to wealth. And I think this kind of, the foundation of where this thought current is coming from is because of all the colonizations and persecutions and extortion of our wealth. A lot of people in India have this weird mindset. We've developed this weird mindset where we kind of think money is what is going to keep us alive. We think everything in terms of money, money, money. And I'm not saying, I'm not against wealth, or I'm not, you know, saying it's bad or good. I'm just saying people are just hyper focusing on wealth. And you can see this projected on even Hindu gurus and Hindu sampradayas. See, when, let's say, a Hindu guru is wearing gold jewelry of like Rudraksha jewelry, you know, covered in gold, or a Hindu organization maybe has a car for the guru, for the guru to, you know, maybe come from the airport to the ashram, or any level. Maybe a guru sampradaya is building humongous temples that cost millions of dollars. So when a lot of average Hindus look at this, when they look at the enormous kind of work that's being undertaken by these gurus and the sampradayas, people automatically, it's unfortunate, but it's become a reflex where people just start attacking the guru for having that wealth, right? But people are not understanding why. How is the Hindu guru's organization or that sampradaya able to manifest all that wealth in their organization, and how they're using that wealth for the upliftment and enrichment of Hindu society? It's because they're reviving Hinduism. It's because so many people, millions of people, are benefiting from these practices, that people are willingly contributing their wealth, their life treasure, their life's earning to this cause that the Hindu guru has inspired them to manifest. So I feel like a lot of times Hindus just kind of blindly attack that, oh, that guru is wearing gold jewelry and you know, they have a car and they're building all these expensive temples. Maybe they should just build some hospital and, you know, help the poor people and do all these charitable things. And I'm not saying we should not be doing that. We can do that alongside having, you know, built a huge, beautiful Hindu ecosystem out of the wealth that was generated through the inspiration of the Hindu guru. It's through the inspiration of the guru that the disciples even contribute their life's earning, their life treasure to the sampradaya, for it to flourish and help even more people, enrich more and more of humanity. So I just noticed that pattern also, you know, whenever gurus are pictured, you know, a post on social media, when some picture is put where the wealth is being showcased, not explicitly, but, you know, it's just like in the background or just implicitly implied, people just automatically have this weird reflex of just attacking them for that specific reason. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
So it's so funny that even if you contemplate on why they are focusing so much on the wealth aspect, is because they lost the science of making wealth. It's like they don't know how to make wealth, and if someone makes the wealth, and they would, as you said, they are jealous of what they are doing. And one of the important thing that you said is these people started attacking Hindu gurus by stating why he's building this big temple. He could have built hospitals or charitable trust or something like that. They are not understanding that those temples are not just a place of worship. It is a place where your whole body gets rejuvenated. You don't need to go to hospital if you go daily to temple. All those trees, plants, they are not just for showcasing that it is a greenish area. It's not that. All those temples have a tulasi plant, which is so good for health. And even maybe it's not there in every Hindu homes, but it was there that each Hindu home would have a tulasi plant, and the people, the residents would go around it. So it's not just of a worship part of view, it is more like a health perspective. And the charitable trust. And there is this what do you say, funny aspect where people would say, why are you pouring milk on Shivalinga when you can give it to poor people? They don't understand that there is another happening in the temple daily. Thousands of people come and get another. They are not seeing that. They just they just wanted to see the magnificent of that sampradaya that is happening. And if you look closely, this idea of rejecting the tradition and giving it to societal uses comes from the movies, the cinema industry, which is so powerful that just one movie is able to destroy the history of hundreds of gurus. Even I don't know why even Hindus appreciate the movies which defame the gurus. if you take any Tamil cinema, there will be a point in time where Hindu practices would be defamed, and these people sitting in the theaters would clap hands. I just can't understand why it is happening. And if we look closely, and those actors would they won't follow Hinduism, or they won't say they are following Hinduism. They say themselves, they claim themselves as secular, and try to educate these people. That's why, because the tradition is so much that they don't want it to be under the Hindu umbrella. So,
Yeah. Another thing that I just remembered, about the previous point, because you mentioned about it earlier, is, a lot of times people, when we look at wealth, it's like people, a lot of Hindus, unfortunately, they're not even asking the question, why do the Hindu guru, or why does the Hindu organization or sampradaya even need wealth? Like, why does it even need wealth, right? And this kind of ties back to the topic of this discussion, the Hindu persecution. If you look historically, Hindus had control of all aspects of society on their own land. But with the onset of Mughal settler colonialism, they lost a lot of the political autonomy that they had. So many of these Hindu kingdoms that existed, they were the ones funding Hindu activities, Hindu practices, Hindu enrichment, activities, and like going into society, helping people get a spiritual breakthrough. All these different things, medicine, Ayurveda, all of those treatments were free to anyone. Those were basic human rights. Healthcare was a basic human right. Things like education was free. People gave guru dakshina to the guru, but at the most fundamental level, if someone could not afford it, education was a basic human right. And the Hindu kingdoms, the political structure of that time, were the ones funding these activities to uplift the society. But because that sovereignty, right, that political sovereignty was taken away, how do you expect the Hindu sampradayas to function? And then with the onset of British colonization, they even took away many of the lands that many of these sampradayas function on. And now, if you look at present day, under the secular constitution, many of the Hindu gurus, the rights and the authority that they used to have, historical indigenous authority that they used to have, even that's taken away from them. So I need all the Hindus to just ask yourself this question. How is a Hindu organization, how is a Hindu guru sampradaya supposed to function when there is no state sponsor of activities for Hinduism, which existed prior to all these colonizations? You can't function without wealth. You can't function in society without wealth, because originally it was done by and taken care of by the political structure, which was the Hindu kingdoms that existed. But now you don't even have that. So you can't attack a Hindu guru or a Hindu sampradaya based on this aspect, saying, oh, why are they, even having wealth? They should just be sleeping in a hut and not do anything, meditate all day. Why are they building all these ashrams and temples and doing all these spiritual activities that require money? Well, back in the day, those things used to be taken care of by the state, but the state isn't interested in taking care of those things. So the Hindu gurus have to take the responsibility of taking care of those things. So, I mean, it's a very hypocritical thinking on the parts of many neo-Hindus to kind of just insinuate all these different ideas without actually realizing the historical context behind why Hindu gurus and why Hindu sampradayas are functioning the way they are. They are stateless. They are their whole connection to the entire framework within the indigenous Hindu land has been stripped away from them. So they have to do something and function somehow. So constantly just attacking them isn't always the way to do that.
Yeah, actually, we can see the pattern, right? The seed, the poisonous seed that the invaders planted is grown so successfully that even we can't find the difference between, I mean, we can't understand why a practice is being practiced and why a guru is reviving that practice which was lost again. So, so yeah, they were so successful. We should somehow we should regain the knowledge of why we are practicing it, and why the gurus are reviving. And what I think one of the important aspect of the temple ecosystem is it is not just a place of worship, as I said. Uh, the ancient people, they gathered around the temple each day to celebrate a day as a festival. So it was so much it was so profound to even see those festivals. So it's not just about going to a temple, praying and coming back. So this is happening today, even now. Well, not today, because the state government is being imposing lockdowns specifically on temples, and specifically on those days where Hindus go to temples. So it's a topic of another discussion that we can do. But generally speaking, people go to temples daily to have a healthy discussion. So all those invaders wanted to stop that. They just don't want Hindus to talk about Hinduism and what is happening around them. So I think we should restart it. I mean, going back to the roots and speaking about what is happening around you. Because even though the places which we were used to go are being destroyed each day, and being in Tamil Nadu, I can see, I can even get two temples destroyed in 1 week, and not just small temples. We are not even counting in these small temples or big temples which used to have many people coming around and going daily is not anymore. Even this week, temple in Chennai was demolished in the name of encroachment. I don't know how a 100-year-old temple is being labeled as encroach. So and and I saw a comment below the video. A person shared the temple being destroyed, and a person commented that whatever may be the place, if it is being encroached, it should be demolished. And the person who is typing is a Hindu. So it's just they don't want it because they have been brainwashed that temples are okay to be left over. So it was one of the important things that we should focus on.
Yeah, the real encroachment that's happening is the encroachment happening on the indigenous Hindu lands. I mean, that's the real encroachment that we should be talking about. And no, absolutely. I've been seeing so many videos recently about so many temples, especially in the South, being bulldozed. Like literally, is bulldozers coming and raising the whole temple structure to the ground. And it just pains me as a practicing Hindu to see all these, because the temples are so beautifully carved. It must have taken so much hard work, effort from, whichever sampradaya they come from, the guru that inspired that for that temple to be built. It must have taken so much hard work, dedication, years of, artisans even carving the stone of that temple. And within, a matter of a couple minutes, they raised the whole structure to the ground without any ramifications, with the support of the state, support of the political system, support of the legal system. It's very unfortunate, and I see Hindus, that have served that temple, standing around that temple that their ancestors have prayed and worshipped and taken care of. just being razed to the ground. They're crying for help, and no one is there to help them. No one is there listening to their cries about the ancestral temple that supported them through ups and downs for centuries. Now they're just left without a temple. It's a very unfortunate thing to happen, and it's sadly, I think, happening in many parts of India, and it's going unchecked, and because it's being framed under this legal framework, using laws, the current modern laws, to justify this encroachment on Hindu lands, which is a very unfortunate thing. And what you mentioned earlier about the movies is absolutely true. The movies, the anti-Hindu narratives that are being perpetuated in these movies are causing immense harm to average Hindus who are not aware, who are not that well educated, who are not learning about the history of Hinduism, the history of the persecutions that happened on our people. I remember as a kid growing up, in India, and I forgot what movie it was, but we watched one of the movies in the theater, and in that movie, the main theme was bashing Hinduism. I mean, the whole movie was based on, kind of quote unquote destigmatizing and calling Hindu practices as like fake rituals that have no significance, calling Hindu practices as regressive and primitive, and kind of giving their own spin on the Hindu practice. So, there are many practices that have historical foundation in the Shastras. So, it's clearly described what the practice is, how it should be practiced. But, over time, through invasion, settler colonialism, imperialism, neo-colonialism, so many different levels of colonization, all these practices may not have remained the same that they used to be, which were based, Shastra-centric. So now what these anti-Hindu elements are doing is they're using societal ills. They're using the most negative things that are happening in Indian society or the South Asian society today, and they're projecting those negative aspects and calling them Hindu. So by doing that, they can make a whole movie about it and say, oh, look at all these primitive Hindu practices, that because people associate that with the current societal ills that they're living in, the current society, the way it's functioning. People are looking at the societal ills that they face every day, and they're forced to associate that with these other the regressivism or primitiveness of all these practices. So that connection is very cunningly and in a very manipulative way made through a movie. And a lot of the even older generation, I remember going to that movie with many of like my parents' generation people, and they bought into the narrative. I mean, they just blindly just looked at the actor and the actress, and they were just falling for the whole story that they were projecting in the movie. And it's a very cunning way to make people think it's reality, without having to do further research and look into, okay, why are they saying what they're saying? Are these practices actually rooted in Hinduism? Do they have any authority from the Shastras? Or are they just something that manifested as a social societal ill? So I think that differentiation isn't made, and oftentimes these movies go out of their way to make that connection, force that connection, and make Hindus feel ashamed of their identity, make Hindus feel ashamed to even practice Hinduism. Yeah.
So one of the things you said is the story that they build up. There is two aspects, I think, because in movies, what they do is they just create a story out of their mind and move from that. But there is also another part, the serials, which is like there is also a famous serial having Krishna as the main protagonist, and what they are doing is to understand Krishna, we need to read Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or whatever what Krishna says about himself. But what these people are doing is they are creating. They are quoting that they are taking the Bhagavatam as source, but they are cunningly manipulating each and every part so that they can project Krishna as a playboy, a person who is always naughty, or what can we say, in a bad way. They are projecting him in such a bad way that even Hindus are appreciating him. They are not even ready to even read what real Bhagavatam is. So there is this two kind of path that is the majority follows. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Even in many of the Indian serials, I've noticed, growing up, uh, Narad Muni. Narad Muni is portrayed as a very he's portrayed, unfortunately, as a joker, like someone who's like a clown, someone who's just clueless, and he's just like dancing around with no purpose. Like that's how he's portrayed in many of these serials. And I remember watching them, and even I, as a very like proud practicing Hindu, even I kind of have have that as my visualization when someone mentions Narad Muni. Like even right now, if someone starts talking to me about Narad Muni, my brain automatically visualizes him based on those serials that were shown to me growing up as a kid. So I can only imagine the people who are not even as connected to Hinduism as me, the kind of misinformation that they have in their heads just watching these serials and not having the full context. When Narad Muni actually was one of the great, munis and rishi that ever existed. He's such a high, powerful being, and he's projected as some joker and a clown. I mean, it's ridiculous, and it's having an actual impact. I think Hindus need to understand that, because sometimes people will, just say, oh, like it doesn't matter. Most people know that he's a rishi and he's a muni. Like people know he's not a clown or a joker. No, like the next generation, especially the young people like myself, I grew up watching that, and even till today, I still have that imagery of Narad Muni like that in my head, because I grew up seeing that over and over again. So don't be like, I think we need to get beyond the point of being negligent, even about these things, because even little things like this matter. And it's not really a little thing, it's a huge thing. When you view, when you're made to view rishis and munis as clowns and some useless people, like that's not that's a huge mental atrocity done to Hindus, because atrocities go beyond just the physical. It's not just that someone physically persecuted us, which actually happened, in the hundreds of millions of Hindus have been killed historically, continuing even today. But even a more lethal and a very cunning way to systematically erase and make a indigenous spiritual tradition extinct is through mental torture, through intergenerational trauma that they create by manipulating our very systems of existence. So I think psychological trauma, psychological warfare has been used to inherently, like mentally, drain Hindus from everything we know, and caricature, make cartoons out of our tradition, make fun of it in a very derogatory way.
Yeah, what you said is very important, because the cartoons that those people make out of Hindu sages, again, yeah, these people who are Hindus who are not aware of who they are keeping those creatures as their own profile photo. It's just ridiculous. I don't know when they would be woken up to the truth that these are not just for likes and comments. It's more of a mental brainwash. So yeah.
Honestly, like I know we're heading towards concluding this session, but I kind of want to add like a kind of a comprehensive point lead us towards that conclusion is, if you are a Hindu watching this, I need you to understand, like, you should question what's going on around you. I think it's very important to first question the narratives that you're seeing in front of you. Secondly, you need to understand what Hinduism has to actually offer. So why is Hinduism even important? You know, it's not just important because your parents, your grandparents, or your ancestors followed it. Okay, that's one level of reasoning. A lot of people have had ancestors, and you know, even they have their own traditions and they follow it and they continue it. But why Hinduism? Why practice Sanatana Hindu Dharma? And not just practice, but why keep it alive and revive many of the lost traditions for the benefit of humanity? Humanity is facing so many challenges, and how can we revive indigenous Hindu practices to help the world combat these issues, to help the world sustain itself, because we're leading to a mass catastrophe. Recently, I saw in the news headlines that we're heading to a sixth mass extinction due to the global climate crisis. And there are so many species that are going extinct day by day because of the lifestyle that humans are living. Even this scientific report is, you know, attributing all these calamities and catastrophes to human interference. The way humans are conducting ourselves, the way humans are living their lifestyles, the way we have organized society in a modern setting, it's very anti how the nature functions. It's very against the laws and principles of how nature wants to function. And when we go against that, we're creating all these, you know, mass extinctions and catastrophes, climate change, deforestation, you name it. There's so many things going on, even physical conflicts. So really, Hindus, you know, if you're watching, you need to understand, how can Hinduism contribute to all the different challenges that we're facing in the world today? And how are Hindu gurus important in bringing this revival? This revival of ancient Hindu practices and lifestyle can't just be brought by you know, a couple people doing here and there and thinking we can read the Shastras. We need someone who has the experience, which are Hindu gurus. Hindu gurus have the experience, the enlightenment experience, the experience of knowing the Shastras, the experience of knowing how to interpret the Shastras and bring it to the world in a positive way, so that it can positively enrich the society and help us solve many of the challenges that we're facing as a world. We're heading to catastrophe. So Hindu gurus are offering a solution. Hindu gurus are giving direct solutions to the problems that we're facing. You know, most of the times people just talk about problems. There's so many problems endlessly. People can just go on and on talking about problems. We have this problem, that problem. Hindu gurus actually are providing solutions. So instead of attacking Hindu gurus, I encourage everyone to look into the work Hindu gurus are doing. And especially, you know, my guru, His Divine Holiness Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam, is reviving this ancient, beautiful lifestyle of Sanatana Hindu Dharma. And he's making it available for every single one. And he's not just talking about it. He's not just talking about the problems. You know, we are acknowledging the historical wrongs that has been done to us. But now the moment is to look beyond that. While acknowledging the past, we should also be looking to the future of how Hinduism can contribute and enrich the world and society in a positive way. And I think that's the vision Hindu gurus bring, especially, you know, Swamiji is bringing to the world. So I highly encourage everyone to, you know, look into what different gurus are doing, what Kailasa is doing as the only Hindu nation currently present in the world, the different revival projects that they're doing and contributing to society. So thank you so much.
Yeah. So what you pointed out is what currently the Hindu youth are lacking. So it is important for them to first internalize why they are doing a certain practice in their home, and they don't need to speak up right now. First internalize yourself and try to discover why it is being practiced, and who revived it, etc. And if you want to speak about it, you have this platform, Hinduism Now Global Press, and you can come anytime and we can discuss. Yeah, we have to discuss. So yeah, yeah. So I thank you for having this discussion, and I hope we go forward in it.
Yes, excellent. Thank you both very much. It's been very enlightening and extremely good example of how youth can and need and should be leaders. So this is what traditional Hindu gurukuls did, is teach the children to be responsible. So they're taught responsibility from the earliest age, so that we don't resist responsibility, we grow into responsibility. And you're immediately an industrious, contributing, necessary member of the community, so that you learn to have that as a context. I just wanted to quickly run through a few of the points that we covered, because there was a lot, and we have a huge possibility for continuing these all of these topics. So we looked at the systematic destruction of Hinduism. It's a systematic Holocaust. It's not incidental. It's systematic by multiple waves of invaders and occupiers. Hindus are afraid to acknowledge the truth of this Holocaust, and why. We have not been recognizing the role of media, social media, which is one of the huge major topics we need to talk more about. The brainwashing that goes into that, the cultural appropriation. We haven't been acknowledging the lawfare, the attacks of media against gurus, the lawfare attacks against gurus, and how we support that. We haven't acknowledged the importance of gurus, and that this is an attack against indigenous traditions. It's an attack to disintegrate indigenous traditions. So we break up the traditions and turn them against themselves, and then they can be controlled. And a few of the other things. Why is this happening? Why so easily neo-Hindus attack Hinduism and gurus? So what is it that we're missing? We mentioned conscious sovereignty. What is that? What is powerfulness? What is completion? What is the spiritual powerfulness? We didn't go into that. That's something else we can go into in the future. Why are we so easily shaken? Why are we so easily attacking other people? So one of the way that Sanatana Hindu Dharma was lived is the deity exists eternally, and so the temples and the deity is the physical embodiment of that. So the living guru is the incarnation of that, the deity to the temple and the guru, and the king is a follower of the guru. So every Swarajya, every Hindu civilization, kingdom has the king, but the king is guided by the guru. The king is just a placeholder from generation to generation. So the guru is the incarnation of the divine energy, the deity. So we're totally forgetting that. The Raja Guru is leading everyone. The kings were following the Raja Guru, who was devoted to the deity. So that's why these lands we mentioned, so much wealth is there. So there are Christian nations, Muslim nations, Buddhist nations, and Jewish nations controlling trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, naturally, to grow and support their ecosystems. Why Hindus should not do that, right? There are Christian nations with trillions of dollars, as their GDP. No one is complaining that that is wrong. Hey, Hindus, you need it. So these are the gifts that Sanatana Hindu Dharma always gave. Hindus were always kings, or never beggars. Dharma, artha. There was a never separation between dharma and artha. There was no separation in life. There was no secularism, no separation between religion and state. That concept doesn't exist for Hindus. Your life is your life, whether you're going to the restroom or whether you're giving a speech. It's your consciousness that matters. There was never any separation in life. So those things don't exist. So much of those were the main points I wanted to sort of reiterate. And so we look forward to continuing these discussions and gathering more youth. So there's a link in the description. If you want to get involved, just fill that form. And you can put a special note that you're a youth wanting to be involved in the youth programs when you fill the form, and we'll reach out to you as soon as possible. So I thank everyone for joining, and I thank our special guests today for sharing. Thank you so much to both of you. Appreciate it. Thank you. And yes, very enlightening. I really look forward to this. Possibly we can look into the role of social media and this brainwashing concept, and because it's extremely relevant to youth, especially types of things like where this is headed with the metaverse, etc., and how we're disconnected from living, and it's so many ideas we're following, not knowing why. So we'll take it forward. Thank you again to Dinesh and Kalyan for sharing. I really appreciate it. It's been super, and we'll complete this session chanting a Purna mantra. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Bhagavat Sri Nithyananda Paramashiva Parukar Paramastu. Om Nithyanandam. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.